with the death of Cú Chulainn. Cú Chulainn was a very good warrior, which, if you think about it, just means that he was extremely good at killing people. And most people have families, and most families aren't very happy when you kill somebody that's in their family. All of which added up to Cú Chulainn accumulated over the years a vast number of enemies, all of whom would like to drop a kipeen on his head from a great height, or otherwise do him harm. Now, chief among these enemies were sextuplets. I always have to think about that word for a second.
Yeah, it's
Sextuplets. They were
six twins.
yeah, twins, but there was six of them.
3 twins.
Yeah, 3 sets of twins, or 2 sets of triplets. Actually, is probably more accurate. Anyway,
Sextuplets it is, okay.
sextuplets. They were the children of Calatin, the sorcerer. And those of you familiar with the Taon Bo Cúinle will remember that one of the fights Cú Chulainn had at the ford was against Calatin and his 27 sons and sisters' sons, which Cú Chulainn won. But Calatin's wife was pregnant when Calatin died, and she went to Queen Maeve for shelter and protection. And Maeve said, "I'll take you in." And as soon as she was delivered of her sextuplets, which was probably no fucking joke back in those days, Maeve promised to have the children raised and taught the most powerful sorcery in the world by sending them off to study in Egypt and Scotland, which is where the most powerful sorcery was to be found. And they grew up, and they grew up wise, and they grew up a little bit fucking weird, and they grew up a little bit uncanny, but they grew up powerful. And when they came back to her, when they were old enough, and when they were grown, and when they had completed their studies, she decided that it was time. And she asked them what they could tell her about the death of Cú Chulainn. And Calatin's 3 sons and 3 daughters looked into the future, and they said, "Yeah, we can go and kill Cú Chulainn. But you should know that whatever army you gather and lead against Ulster, he's going to throw 3 spears. And the first 3 spears Cú Chulainn throws will kill 3 great kings. So you should know that as you gather your army." Now Maeve, being Maeve, her first thought was, "I didn't hear Queen, so that's fine." And she set about gathering an army, because there was another prophecy that she quite liked, which was that if Ulster's champion ever died, Ulster would be without luck forever, which all of the people of Ulster also knew, which makes this a slightly touchy story to tell in some places. Because Cú Chulainn was Ulster's champion, and Maeve gathered this army. Everybody who had a grudge against Cú Chulainn, the family of Nocton, the family of Celtic, no, not Celtic, what the fuck is his name? Not Crantail. Oh, well, Calatin's already there. Cúrái MacDara, not Crantail. All of the Ferdia and Fiach and Cú. There you go, Curd. Now you're on it. Fucking.
Well, I wasn't expecting that one, all right? Sorry.
It's fine when he forgets names. I'm never fucking allowed to forget a name. Fuck thing. Sometimes I forget names too, Aaron. Often a wee drum and trance. Anyway, she gathered them all. There were many of them. All of these people who really, really hated Cú Chulainn and were eager at the opportunity to kill him. They started their march. And as soon as they started their march, up in Ulster, the curse of Macha hit like a fucking sledgehammer, and all of the warriors of Ulster were doubled over with labour pains. But they also knew that if the champion of Ulster were killed, Ulster would be luckless forever. So
King Crahor, doubled over in agonizing pain as he was, he gave orders to invite Cú Chulainn, who still was unaffected by the curse of Macha, because he could not grow a beard, whether it was because he was still too young or he was just not able to grow a beard. Some people just can't, okay, it's fine.
some people just can't grow beards, and it's fine.
Not a problem.
Not a problem.
Even
No
though
matter how much we want.
it was. And he invited Cú Chulainn to Omaka for a feast. And he had all of the non-fighting men and women present to distract, to tell stories, to gather together, to connect, and look each other in the eye, to be very present, and ignore the outside world and the war that was about to happen on their doorstep. And so, with all of this going on, King Crahor thought he might be able to lull Cú Chulainn into a way of staying still. But the three daughters of Taladin, they started the noise of battle outside. They brought up such a strange noise from the outside that Crahor asked the musicians to play loudly, to play a flurry, to play so that they would drown out the war sounds that these daughters were making. And they were casting spells. They were making it sound like the surrounding hills were on fire, being pillaged and plundered. Shrieks and screams of death were all over the province. No one was dying yet, but the sounds made it awful for anyone around it. And so, more singing, more songs, more dancing, more drinking, more merry-making was ordered. And the music rose, and well, Cú Chulainn was distracted to a point, almost. Every time he looked out the window and saw a flash, a spark of fire, he was turned away. A woman would ask him for a dance. The musicians would play in a flurry in a way that he could not get help but get carried away in the musicality of the day. Sooner or later, about 3 days in, maybe, which is good going for us, but back then that's nothing.
Yeah.
His feast would go on for 12 days back
Oh,
then.
they'd go on for a year and a day if you were having a wedding. 3 days, fuck's sake. Small feast, only getting started.
He realised that the noise of this battle outside was not going away, and there was an army marching. He knew Cú Chulainn safe, and so he sent him to Glendamount, the quiet valley, where no noise would ever be heard from outside. It was so quiet, so still, so dead in Glendamount that all you could hear were the caws of the crows overhead. And in this silent place, Cú Chulainn was led by Conal Cearnach's wife, Anya, and his own wife, Emer.
For distractions.
Conal Cearnach's wife, Anya, was pretty happy because, well, everybody fancied Cú Chulainn. It was kind of he was the one that everyone kind of got, you know. As long as he kind of stood outside obvious.
Are you trying to say he was everyone's free pass?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the one everyone got,
Yeah.
the free pass. And so, although Conal Cearnach wasn't overly mad about it, he was also doubled over in pain, so I don't think he really gave a shit about anything other than, ow, 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 fine, go right, Cú Chulainn, I don't care, ow, this is awful, how does anyone do this ever? I assume was going through his head. 'Cause these parts aren't written down, it's all very external myths, as you
Yeah.
know. But when Cú Chulainn was led away by Anya and Emer to Glendamount, they were spending nice times there. 3 days, 3 nights. They were bathing each other and doing lots of other stuff.
Tickling each other, probably. I don't know. Very PG.
However, the daughters of Caladin found out which way they went, and they cast spells on the fallen leaves to make them seem like they were an army emerging from the countryside. There was a whole host now marching, banging on drums. They were casting spells to see and make it look like the whole hillside was drowned in fire. And one woman came walking down where they were staying in Glendalough in their small hut there. And she had the image and the appearance of
Lauracum.
Lauracum.
See? He forgets names all the fucking time.
I do. It's just making sure you're paying attention.
Uh-huh.
And Lauracum came to the door, disguised as Lauracum, I should say, because you know this was one of the daughters of Calatin. And in the voice now of a northern woman, Lauracum exclaimed, "This was a disgrace. How could Cuchulainn be distracting himself? And look around you. The hillsides are burning. Ulster is undefended. This has happened before for the Taunbo Cúnla, and he was brave then, but was he not brave anymore? Could he not take up his arms and defend those that needed defending? Would he not stand up against this fight?" Cuchulainn was ashamed to think of the time frivolously wasted where he had engrossed himself and gorged himself in pleasures of the flesh and feasting and drinking, and well, he was ashamed to say he was Ulster's champion. In that moment he turned to Laig and said, "Yoke the horses," and he went to the grave of Macha.
Well, Laig went to yoke the horses, but for the first time in his career as Cuchulainn's charioteer, the horse ran away. The grey of Macha would not come when Laig called, would not come to the bridle, would not allow herself to be yoked to the chariot. And Laig tried every trick, because he had a few. Tried shaking the bucket with the horse nuts in it, and the horse wouldn't come still. Tried calling, tried coaxing, tried scolding, tried everything. Nothing he did worked. Until he went to Cuchulainn and he said, "She won't come." And Cuchulainn called out and said, "How dare you shame me by turning away from a battle? You've never refused me, you've never let me down." And it was then the horse came to Cuchulainn, and Cuchulainn saw that his horse, his beautiful white horse that had stepped up out of a lake so long ago, was weeping tears of blood. So he took that as a sign, but he led her to the chariot anyway. And once the horses were yoked and ready to go, Cuchulainn leapt into the chariot, Laig beside him, up ahead with the reins twisted around his arms. And Cuchulainn's mother, Dectera, came to him with a cup of wine that she blessed, and she said, "Take this and take my luck with it." Cuchulainn put the wine to his lips and he drank, but as soon as the wine touched his tongue, it turned thick and coppery. Turned from wine to blood, and Cuchulainn spat out his mother's blessing. And she tried again, cleaning out the cup and putting fresh wine in. She tried 3 times, but 3 times the wine curdled into blood in his mouth, and 3 times he spat it out. So he took that as a sign. And on they rode, out towards wherever this army was gathered, wherever they were, Cuchulainn went. They were passing a shallow place of a river, a ford, and he saw there a woman, and she was washing blood out of a set of clothes. And as they came closer, Cuchulainn recognized that crimson cloak, and he called out to her and he said, "Whose armor are you washing?" She said, "I'm washing the armor of Cuchulainn, who rides to his death today." So that was a pretty unambiguous sign. But Cú Chulainn was not one to shirk and not one to shy away from death. He'd been promised that people would be telling his story until the end of life and time, which is the same thing as living forever. And turning away from his death, well, that would only give people no kind of a story to tell. So he carried on. And he saw 3 cailleachs, 3 hags, who had a fire lit and they were cooking something on a spit, some animal that they'd caught. And they called out to Cú Chulainn and they offered him to come down and share their meal on his way to the battle. And he said, "No, I don't think that's a good idea." And they said, "All right, you're too fucking good for us, are you?" And he said, "Well, fuck it, I can't turn you down now." He got down off the chariot, and it was then that he realised the meat that they were cooking was the meat of a hound. And he, being the Hound of Ulster, had a gesh on him never to eat the meat of a hound. But he couldn't refuse them now, so he tried to take just the smallest, tiniest little bit in his left hand, and just the smallest bit, just for politeness, just to pass his lips. But as soon as he put the meat in his mouth, the whole left side of his body was struck with paralysis. All his strength drained out of him like water. So he took that as a sign. But he got back up onto his chariot and continued down the road towards the army.
Now knowing fully after all of these signs that he was going to his death, feeling weak, half paralyzed, but knowing this was the day for sure that he would face that end. And he tried to imagine how he had lived up to the expectations of his name. When he took on the name Cú Chulainn, the Hound of Cullen, he was told it would live on the lips of storytellers until the end of time for the great and many deeds he would do. But everything in his life had been a tragedy. All of the great feats, all of the great deeds he'd ever done and fell to ruin. He'd killed his only son by his own hand with the Gay Bolga, which he'd used to kill his best friend Ferdia, breaking it on Ballystrand after Conla's death. The Thornbow Cúlain's greatest ever heroic deed was a failure because the brown bull was stolen away by Queen Maeve after all. So everything he'd ever done in his own eyes was a failure. And this day he'd assumed at least he would do something. He had the blood of the ever-living running through his veins. So he knew he had some chance still to make a great blast. Something that people would remember. But now, weakened as he was, he didn't know what he could do. But he was still going straight down towards the army. When he crested the hill, he saw an army, the likes of which he'd only seen once before, but it seemed bigger now. An army marching on Ulster to kill him. Because everyone in that army had a blood debt to Cú Chulainn for all the lives he had killed, and he knew it was right that he died this day for all the death and destruction, the heartbreak and the ruin he had brought. And yet, he faced it and lay, whipped the horses to a slow trot, to a canter and into a run. They might as well run into it as fast as they can. Before they came to it, they saw 3 men coming towards them and they slowed their chariot. They didn't see Lugid McCurroy hanging close beside the 3 sons now of Palatine. These 3 magic doers, they called for Cú Chulainn to give them one of his spears. They were afraid that one of their great kings would be killed with the first spear and 2 more after, and so they wanted to get these spears off of Cú Chulainn, who laughed at the invitation, and so they threatened him with a satire. They called they would Cuchulainn's write such a satire that everyone would call Cuchulainn a coward for not giving them their spear. And so Cuchulainn said, "You want the spear, is it? All right, here you fucking go." And he threw his spear beautifully and straight through the neck of the first son of Caladan, who fell down dead. But Lugud Cúroy, whose father, Cúroy MacDara, was now dead, pulled that spear, took aim at Cuchulainn's chariot, and let it fly, and that spear flew through the air with the birds hovering over, and it landed not on Cuchulainn, but the neck of the Grey of Macha. The Grey who had risen out of Lindia, the Grey Lake, that day Cuchulainn had tamed the mythical horse, fell down, breathing no more. The second son of Caladan said, "Give me your spear, or I will write a satire about you and all of the men of Ulster for not being strong or brave, weak in heart." Cuchulainn, now with a lot more vim and vigour, threw that spear out of anguish for the Grey. It came and hit the second son of Caladan in his chest next to his heart. A death's blow, no doubt. Lugud MacCúroy pulled the spear and threw it back, hitting not Cuchulainn but Laig in his chest. Laig, Cuchulainn's only ever friend, now dead next to him. Final son of Caladan called for the spear that would kill the great king, and Cuchulainn took it out and threw it through the stomach of the third son of Caladan, who groaned and died an awful death. And Louis MacCúroy pulled that last spear out and flung it straight at Cuchulainn, who was too weak, too broken-hearted to move, to duck, to dodge, to defend as he always did. And he took the spear straight into his gut. And the prophecy was true. The king of horses had died. The king of charioteers had died. And now the king of all warriors was dead. He knew this was a death's blow. Stumbled, and he decided he would not die on the ground. He would die at least standing up, and he pulled the spear out of him. As he pulled that spear out, entrails fell, and blood soaking him. Everybody now circled around him as he saw a great standing stone for a moment. And he walked up to it slowly, blood leaking from his hands. And he didn't know what to do, but all around him he saw the warriors watch and wait, too afraid to make a move, waiting for Cuchulainn's heroic spasm, the warp spasm, to take hold, his anger, his deadly spear to be thrown at him. They knew he had one last trick in his sleeve. No one wanted to come near the brilliant warrior, even though he looked weak and wounded near death's door. And so he got to the standing stone, not wanting to die on the ground like a dog. He was the hound of Cullen. He would die in his own 2 feet. He would stare death in the eye, and he tied himself using his own intestine, which is fucking long. And he tied himself standing up in that painful movement, but no pain was he afraid of, and he stood there. He tied his hand high, holding on to his sword, so it would look like he was defiant until the end. And he glared, daring the men to come near him, daring them, and every one of them backed away as Cuchulainn faded and faded. And then he saw a black crow circle, caw, and land. Was it the Morrigan, or was it just one of her crows? He didn't know. She began to peck at his entrails that had fallen on the ground. and she began to peck and hop. And as she did, she tripped and near fell and fluttered and squawked. Cuchulainn laughed and he smiled, one last smile. And as he breathed his last, he thought of his tragic life and all the death that had surrounded it. But in that last breath, he thought, someone might make this a good story at least. And the great hero breathed his last.